Your past isn't behind you. It's being created right now. Every single time you remember something, you're not accessing a recording. You're reconstructing it, rewriting it. Your brain doesn't replay memories. It rebuilds them, which means the past you think defines you never existed the way you remember it. And over the next 25 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how neuroscience proved this, why it's not a metaphor, and what it means for who you think you are. Quick note before we dive deep. If you want more content that challenges how you see reality using actual science, not theories, make sure you're subscribed. These are long-form deep dives you won't find anywhere else. Now, let's get into this. Here's what most people believe about memory. You experience something. Your brain records it, stores it. And when you remember, you're simply accessing that recording, like playing back a video file stored in your mental hard drive. The memory is fixed. It happened. It's in the past. You can trust it because it's your direct experience of what actually occurred. This is the foundational assumption behind almost everything. Your sense of identity, your relationships, your understanding of who you are. All of it depends on the idea that your memories are accurate recordings of your past. But what if they're not? What if memory doesn't work like recording at all? What if every time you remember something, you're not accessing a file, you're actively constructing something new? And what if that construction changes the original memory itself? Not metaphorically, literally. Neuroscience has discovered something profoundly disturbing. Memory is not retrieval, it's creation. Every time you remember, you alter what you're remembering. Which means your past, the thing you think is solid and finished, is actually being rewritten in real time. By you. Right now. This isn't philosophy, it's neurobiology. And once you see how this works, you can't unsee it. Over the next 25 minutes, we're going to explore the scientific evidence that memory is constructed, not recorded. We'll look at experiments that prove memories are changed every time they're recalled. We'll examine how easily false memories can be implanted. We'll investigate what philosophers understood about this long before neuroscience caught up. And we'll arrive at a conclusion that's both liberating and terrifying. If your memories are constantly being reconstructed, then your identity, which depends on those memories, is not a fixed thing you discovered. It's a story you're actively writing. The past isn't behind you. It's ahead of you, waiting to be created. Let's start with the woman who proved memories are fiction. Elizabeth Loftus is a cognitive psychologist who spent decades demonstrating something everyone insisted was impossible. That you can implant memories of events that never happened. Not vague impressions, detailed, vivid, emotionally charged memories of experiences that are completely false. Her most famous experiment is called the Lost in the Mall study. She took participants and told them about 4 childhood events. 3 were real, verified by family members. 1 was completely fabricated. The false memory was that they had been lost in a shopping mall as a child, frightened, and then rescued by an elderly person. Here's what happened. After just a few sessions of gentle prompting and imagination exercises, about 25% of participants not only claimed to remember being lost in the mall, they added details that were never suggested. The color of the rescuer's shirt, the specific stores they passed, the feeling of panic. Their brain didn't just accept the suggestion. It constructed an entire experience, complete with sensory details and emotions, and filed it as real memory. Loftus replicated this with more disturbing scenarios. Being attacked by an animal, witnessing criminal acts, experiencing traumatic medical procedures. In study after study, a significant percentage of people developed detailed memories of events that never occurred. Now you might be thinking, okay, but those are false memories. What about real memories? Surely those are accurate. That's where it gets even more unsettling, because research shows that real memories and false memories are indistinguishable in the brain. They activate the same neural networks. They feel equally real. There's no neural signature that marks one as true and another as fabricated. Your brain can't tell the difference, which raises an uncomfortable question. How many of your memories are constructions rather than recordings? How much of your past is real? But it gets stranger, because it's not just that false memories can be created. Real memories are altered every single time you access them. This is called reconsolidation theory. and it's one of the most significant discoveries in neuroscience of the past 2 decades. Here's how it works. When you form a memory, proteins in your brain create connections between neurons. Those connections are the physical substrate of the memory. For a long time, scientists believed that once a memory was consolidated, stored in long-term memory, it became stable, fixed. But research by Karim Nader and others discovered something completely different. Every time you recall a memory, it becomes unstable again. The neural connections temporarily dissolve. The memory enters what's called a reconsolidation window. And during that window, it can be modified, updated, or completely rewritten before being stored again. This isn't minor tweaking. This is fundamental alteration. Studies show that if you recall a memory and introduce new information during the reconsolidation window, that new information becomes integrated into the memory itself. You'll later recall it as part of the original experience, with no awareness that it was added later. Think about what this means. Every time you tell a story about your past, you're not just recalling it, you're reconstructing it. And the act of reconstruction changes the memory. So the next time you recall it, you're recalling the reconstructed version, not the original. Which means, after years of remembering and re-remembering, the memory you have now might be completely different from what actually happened. You think you're accessing the past, but you're creating a new version of the past every single time. Neuroscientist Daniela Schiller puts it bluntly. Memory is not a recording device, it's a storytelling device, and every time we tell the story, we rewrite it. This has been verified in hundreds of studies. Traumatic memories can be softened by recalling them in safe contexts. Positive memories can be enhanced by discussing them with enthusiasm. Neutral memories can become emotionally charged simply by how you frame them when recalling. Your brain treats memory not as fact, but as material. Material that can be shaped, edited, and transformed based on your current state, your current beliefs, your current needs. There's more. Research using fMRI shows that remembering the past and imagining the future activate nearly identical brain regions. The default mode network lights up the same way whether you're recalling yesterday or constructing a fantasy about tomorrow. Your brain doesn't distinguish between remembering and imagining. Both are acts of mental construction. Both involve taking fragments, sensory details, emotions, and assembling them into a coherent narrative. The only difference is the label you attach. If you label it memory, you experience it as past. If you label it imagination, you experience it as future. But neurologically, they're the same process. Construction, not retrieval, which means your past isn't more real than your fantasies. Both are stories your brain tells itself. This isn't speculation. This is observable, measurable neuroscience. And once you understand it, you start to see the implications everywhere. Every argument you've had, where you and the other person remember the same event completely differently, both of you completely convinced you're right. Every childhood memory that feels vivid but can't be verified. Every time you've told a story about yourself and noticed the details shift slightly. It's not that you're lying, it's that memory itself is inherently unreliable. Not because of some flaw, but because it's designed to construct, not record. Your brain optimizes for coherence, not accuracy. It creates a past that makes sense of your present, not a past that corresponds to what actually happened. Quick note, if you're finding value in this and you're not subscribed yet, hit subscribe. These deep investigations into the nature of reality are what this channel is about. And if you're noticing you understand this intellectually but want a system to actually apply it, to shift from knowing to being, I created something for that gap. It's called the manifestation path. Link in the description. I'll leave it there for you. Now, back to memory. This discovery that memory is constructed isn't new. Philosophers understood this long before neuroscience had the tools to measure it. Henry Bergson, writing in the early 1900s, argued that memory is not stored in the brain like files in a cabinet. Memory, he said, is a present activity. It's something you do, not something you have. Bergson distinguished between two types of memory: habit memory, the automatic patterns like riding a bike, and pure memory, the conscious recollection of specific events. But even pure memory, he insisted, is not retrieval of the past. It's a creative act happening now. You don't go back to the past. You bring fragments of the past into the present and assemble them according to your current perspective, needs, and state of consciousness. Bergson saw this as liberating. If memory is creation, then you're not imprisoned by your past. You're constantly recreating it. Phenomenologists like Maurice Merleau-Ponty went further. They observed that lived experience is always interpreted experience. You never experience raw reality. You experience reality filtered through your perceptual frameworks, your beliefs, your linguistic structures. And memory is no different. When you remember, you're not accessing raw data. You're interpreting past experience through your current frameworks, which means memory is always about now, not then. You remember the past, you need to make sense of the present you're living. Let's test this directly. I want you to do something right now. Think of a memory from your childhood, something vivid, maybe a birthday party, a family vacation, a moment at school. Got one? Good. Now observe how you're experiencing that memory. Are you seeing it from your own eyes, first-person perspective, or are you watching yourself in the memory, like a movie, seeing your own body from outside? Most people, when they recall distant memories, see themselves in the scene, but that's impossible. You never experienced it that way. You experienced it from inside your body, through your eyes, which means what you're calling a memory is actually a reconstruction. Your brain took fragments, emotional tones, maybe a photograph you saw later, stories you heard, and constructed a visual scene that feels like memory, but is actually a creative assemblage. Now pay attention to the details. Can you see the edges of the scene clearly? Or does it fade into vagueness? Real-time perception has edges, full visual fields. Memory doesn't. It's more like a spotlight illuminating fragments while the rest remains in shadow. And those fragments, are they stable? Or if you shift your attention, do the details shift slightly? Try it. Focus on a specific detail, like what someone was wearing. Does it stay fixed, or does it become clearer, or change as you focus on it? What you're noticing is that memory isn't a static image. It's a dynamic construction happening in real time. And the act of observing it, the act of asking about details, changes what appears. Here's an even more direct investigation. Think of an emotionally charged memory, something that brings up strong feelings. Could be positive or negative. Notice the emotional tone. Now, describe that memory out loud as if you're telling someone who wasn't there. Use different words, frame it differently, maybe emphasize different aspects. Now recall the memory again. Does it feel the same? Or has the emotion shifted slightly? Has your relationship to it changed? What you just did is reconsolidation in action. By retrieving the memory and framing it differently, you altered it, not metaphorically, literally. The next time you recall that memory, you'll be recalling this version, not the original, which raises a profound question. If memory changes every time you access it, and you've accessed your core memories hundreds or thousands of times, how much of what you remember actually happened? How much is reconstruction piled on reconstruction? Think about the story of your life, the narrative of who you are, where you came from, what shaped you. That story is built on memories. But if every memory is a construction, then the story is fiction, not a lie, but a narrative your brain assembled to create coherence. Your identity isn't something you discovered, it's something you wrote, and you're still writing it. Neuroscience and philosophy converge here. Both point to the same conclusion. The past is not fixed, it's not finished, it's not sitting somewhere behind you, solid and unchangeable. The past is a process, a construction site, and you are the architect. Every time you remember, you're not looking backward, you're creating backward, assembling a past that justifies, explains, and supports the present you're living and the future you're moving toward. This is why two people can experience the same event and remember it completely differently. They're not both accessing the same recording. They're each constructing their own version based on their current perspective, needs, and identity. Neither is lying, both are creating. And here's what makes this even more profound. If the past is constructed in the present, then changing your present changes your past. Not metaphorically, literally. When you shift your perspective now, you alter the memories you recall. When you reframe an experience, the memory itself is modified, which means healing from past trauma isn't about changing what happened, it's about changing how it's remembered. And that's not fantasy, that's neuroscience. The past is negotiable, the past is fluid, the past is under construction. Let's bring this together. We've seen that false memories can be implanted with disturbing ease. We've seen that real memories are altered every time they're recalled through reconsolidation. We've seen that remembering and imagining use the same neural networks. And we've seen that philosophers understood memory as present creation long before labs could measure it. So what does this actually mean? It means the past you think defines you doesn't exist, not in the way you think it does. There is no fixed, accurate past sitting in your brain waiting to be accessed. There are fragments, neural traces, patterns, but those fragments become a past only when you assemble them. And how you assemble them depends entirely on who you are now. Your current beliefs, your current emotional state, your current identity. The past is always created by the present, which means you're not the product of your past. Your past is the product of you. The story of your childhood, the narrative of your struggles, the meaning you've attached to your experiences, all of it was constructed by the person you are now, not discovered, constructed. And if you change who you are now, you change the past you remember. This is the heart of it. Identity is not built from memory. Memory is built from identity. You think you remember who you are, but actually, who you are determines what you remember. Your sense of self, your beliefs about yourself, they act as a filter. You recall memories that confirm the identity you currently hold, and you alter, suppress, or reframe memories that contradict it. This isn't conscious, it's automatic. Your brain is constantly curating your past to maintain narrative coherence. And narrative coherence means a past that makes sense of the present self. So if you believe you're a victim, you'll recall and emphasize memories that support victimhood. If you believe you're resilient, you'll recall and emphasize memories that support resilience. Same events, different story, different past. Which past is true? Neither. Both. Because memory isn't true or false, it's constructed. The past doesn't determine who you are. Who you are determines the past you inhabit. And that changes everything, because it means you're not stuck with your past. You can't change what happened. But what happened isn't what you remember. What you remember is a construction, and constructions can be rebuilt. The implications are staggering. Every time you say, "I am this way because of what happened to me," you're confusing cause and effect. It's not that the past made you who you are. It's that who you are made the past you remember. Change your identity, and the past shifts. Not because you're lying to yourself, but because memory is always a function of present consciousness. This is why therapy works. Why reframing trauma reduces its impact. Why some people heal and others stay imprisoned. Not because their pasts were different, but because they constructed different pasts. And here's the radical part. If you can construct your past, you can construct your future. Because neurologically, they're the same process. Imagination, construction, assembly of fragments into coherent narrative. The future isn't predetermined any more than the past is fixed. Both are stories being written now, in this moment, by the consciousness observing, choosing, and assembling. You are not the result of your past. You are the author of it, and you're holding the pen right now. There's a brutal difference between intellectually understanding that you collapse reality and actually living as someone who knows this. Most people watch videos like this, feel the insight, and 3 days later, they're back to the same mental and emotional pattern as always. Why? Because knowledge without embodiment changes nothing. That's exactly the gap that led me to create the manifestation path. It's not a course, it's a structured process of identity reprogramming through 3 progressive workbooks and 28 days of guided daily practice. You'll identify and dismantle the autopilot, map who you are versus who you're becoming, and practice every day until the new identity is no longer effort, but naturalness. Neuroscience plus consciousness plus coherent action. It's not temporary motivation, it's structural change. Link in the description if you want the next insight to actually change how you exist. So what do you do with this? 2 practices. First, mental experiment. For the next week, Every time you catch yourself saying, "I am this way because of my past," pause. Observe that you're constructing a causal narrative. Then ask, what if I constructed it differently? Not to deny what happened, but to see that interpretation is always present tense construction. Notice how the emotional charge shifts when you reframe. Second, direct observation practice. Tonight, before sleep, recall a memory from today. Any moment. Now recall it again, but change one detail. The tone of voice someone used. The emotional quality. Notice how changing the detail changes the memory itself. Do this deliberately. You're practicing reconsolidation consciously. You're seeing firsthand that memory is material you shape, not truth you discover. Your past is not behind you. It's being written right now, by the thoughts you think, the meanings you assign, the stories you tell yourself about who you are and how you got here. You're not remembering your past. You're imagining it into existence, which means you have more freedom than you thought. You're not defined by what happened. You're defined by how you construct what happened. And that construction is happening now. Every memory is a rough draft, not a final version. Every identity is under revision. You are not the prisoner of your past. You are its author. The question is, what story are you writing? What past are you creating? Because whatever you're constructing backward, you're also constructing forward. And the past you choose is the future you'll inhabit. Remember that. Or better yet, construct it. If this shifted how you see memory and identity, leave a like. It helps others find content that actually challenges reality. And drop a comment answering this. What's one memory you've noticed changing over time as you've recalled it repeatedly? Let's see how common this reconstruction process actually is.